Jojo Siwa, you're a scary ass bitch. If you have something to say about me, say it, and this time, don't delete your comment or unlike shady tweets. Don't let those paid YouTube views and botted Spotify streams get to your head, Madonna from Dollar Tree ass bitch. Check pinned comment on Sucker 4 Green music video. Karma's a what? So, you might be sitting there asking yourself, what the fuck? And honestly, I don't blame you, because without context, this probably makes no sense. So, I can't find the original tweet, but to my knowledge, all this started because Lil Tay basically said she doesn't want to be compared to Jojo, because unlike Jojo, she writes all her songs. At some point after that, Jojo liked and then unliked this shady tweet saying, there's really no comparison between Jojo and Lil Tay anyway. Jojo Siwa has a career. Lil Tay is just a meme, and a pathetic one at that. Now, personally, I actually have mixed feelings about this because on one hand, this is so undeniably petty, and as much as I want to joke about whose side are you on, Lil Tay or Jojo Siwa's, I don't really think there's a correct side to be on. With that being said, I am Team Lil Tay.
I'm 100% independent. You try to stop me? You can't, bitch. I make it back every time. You try to stop me? You try to swap me? You can't, bitch. I come back every time, and I come back better. Who the fuck's doing it like me?
So, Lil Tay is 16 years old. She was born almost a year after me, but she was 9 when I was 13, so I'm a little confused. I don't know. It doesn't even matter. Let's move on. So, back to what I was saying, Lil Tay is 16. Now, believe it or not, because you won't believe it, Jojo Siwa is 20 years old. What does this mean? It means as a 20-year-old woman, Miss Siwa is beefing with a sophomore or junior. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure of a lot right now. Now, as the adult in this situation, it's Jojo's duty to not stoke the flames of beef with a child. And obviously she realized that if she unliked the tweet, but I think the fact she ever liked it in the first place is very indicative of who Jojo is as a person. I think that Jojo was a product of her environment. I think we all are, but her more so. When things happen to people, I feel like when events happen to people, they either become part of the cycle or break out of it. And I want to explain what I mean by that, firstly by showing you this clip of Jojo with some of the Dance Mom girls.
This is gonna be a little controversial to say, I think, but to me, Abby was always right. I did interrupt two adults talking. If I was a mess and a beat off, she wasn't just yelling at me because she wanted to yell at me. I actually was a mess and was a beat off. One thing that I've learned, like really working insane in Hollywood, is that that's normal. And it's like, it's scary that that's normal, but that taught me how to survive in the industry. I mean, it truly is so tough.
What I thought of when I first saw that clip was, you know those people who try to argue that it's okay to abuse your kids because they're like, my parents beat the shit out of me and I'm okay, and it's somebody who has like no emotional regulation and hits their partners? It's kind of like that. Abby's always right. She bragged about making kids cry, made fun of the way they looked, committed fraud, and that isn't even the tip of the iceberg. And to be clear, Abby Lee Miller isn't the only horrible role model in JoJo's life.
Your hair is getting really dark. We're gonna need to lighten this up.
I have been dyeing my hair since I was like 2, maybe 1.5. I'm not a natural blonde. I'm actually a natural brown. I get brown roots, so I have to dye it so it looks like I'm a natural blonde.
Abby can't say we didn't go all out. We went all out.
JoJo's mother is a classic case of momager, dyeing her child's hair since she was 2 years old, and pretty much not being a mother to her daughter. JoJo went on a podcast talking about how she tried venting to one of her friends about how her mom isn't a mom, and her friend basically said, well, have you considered you're the problem?
I've said this to my parents, and more so my mom than my dad, but I've been like, I call it, this is so, ew, I hate these words, but like mommy mom. And I've told, like, we've had to find the dynamic. It's shockingly, it's gotten harder as I've gotten older. Yeah. But I've like, I want you to be more my mom, and I want to be able to talk to you more about mom things than work things. And then, you know, Nick Vile. Yep. One day I was with Nick and I was ranting about things and I was like, all my mom wants to do is talk about work and I just want her to be my mommy mom. And like, he was like, Jojo, you need to slow down for a second. You're rambling. And I was like, tell me what to do. And he was like, I'm never going to tell you what to do, but I am going to tell you what's going on. And he gave me the best advice I've ever received in this situation. He told me, he said that essentially I was the problem. I'm the one changing. She is doing what she's done her whole life. That's how we've always communicated. That's how we've always bonded. That's how we've always worked. Like, it just works. It is what it is. It's not normal, but it's our normal, essentially.
So clearly this girl doesn't have great people around her. I genuinely hate saying it, but in cases like this, when people grow up in these environments and become adults, they either become part of the problem or can only be saved by themselves. Allegedly, there's reason to think she's part of the problem. Jojo wanted to create a pop group of little girls to hand the torch to called XOMG Pop. The TLDR is that one of the girls is accusing Jojo and Jojo's mom of yelling at the girls and also forcing her to continue dancing even when her belly button was bleeding because of medical issues she was having. It's more complicated than that, but I'll link a video in the description if you're interested in learning more about it. Jojo hasn't really addressed this issue, I believe, other than her manager making a statement saying it's not true, but I and many others have a very hard time believing that, because after all, she thinks somebody like Abby Lee Miller is always right, and Abby Lee Miller would never do something as heinous as making fun of somebody for something they can't control.
The reason I left Dance Moms was because my former dance teacher made fun of a medical condition I have.
Yeah, so if Jojo thinks Abby was always right, then why wouldn't she act the same way Abby always did? Also, it's not necessarily something important, but I did notice she owns a pair of sweatpants that says, "It takes $0 to be kind," or something along those lines. And obviously there's nothing wrong with that in of itself, but I can't really sit here and say she embodies it. In my eyes, you can't be a kind person and defend Abby Lee Miller. You can't be a kind person and be friends with James Charles and Colleen Ballinger and imply the victims are lying despite undeniable proof. You can't be a kindness matters person and like a tweet calling Lil Tay pathetic compared to you. But, maybe I'm reaching with that little point I'm making, but something I don't think I'm reaching for is that I think she thinks she's the main character. I mean, she has a car with her face plastered all over it. This is the kind of shit you see in a cartoon in an episode where a character gets a major ego boost and leaves all their friends, and by the end of the episode, realizes that happiness is the friends you made along the way. Except she doesn't have a character arc that can be solved in a singular episode. This girl said she wanted to invent gay pop, and then had to backtrack once people called her out because it was already a music genre.
I want to start a new genre of music. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's called gay pop.
I went into the Disney Channel building and I sat down with the president of Disney Channel and I said, I want to make history. And that's what this is.
I know when Jojo backtracked, she said she already knew it was a genre and just mixed up her words, but honestly, I don't really think that's true. I think she genuinely didn't realize that gay pop was a genre. I know people can mix up their words, but when she said, I want to create a new genre of music, that's definitely like, I don't know how you can say those words and not be like, oh wait, I said that wrong, and go back in the moment. She also said this.
There was a lot of comments that were like, Jojo needs to fire her marketing team. Whoever Jojo's marketing team is needs to get out of here. Those were my favorite comments ever, because I'm literally like, it's me, bitch. I am my marketing team.
Oh, don't worry, babe. We know. You don't need to confirm that. I think the main problem with this whole thing is that Jojo thinks she knows what she's doing, and she's doing something, but it's not coming off the way it's supposed to. She's labeled a lot of her inspirations as Miley Cyrus, Elton John, Michael Jackson, David Bowie, etc. I would argue that a lot of these artists are revolutionary, and I think Jojo wants to be revolutionary, but the problem is a real revolutionaire doesn't say they're a revolutionaire. They just are. On top of this, Jojo is making it this huge deal that she's changing her aesthetic and everything, but that's not really true. This is a video of Jojo that was posted by Fallon Tonight on TikTok on March 8th, 2023, so in her new era, so to speak. What she's doing in the clip isn't important, but look at what she's wearing and tell me she's in a new era, because if you ask me, this is exactly the kind of thing she would have worn before all this. I think what was so shocking about Miley Cyrus's rebrand was that it made a lot of people realize she wasn't how they envisioned her all this time. It was an authentic switch. She had this being in a cage and breaking out kind of thing going on, but, she was doing things like going to parties and getting drunk and completely acting out of character. She rebranded. Jojo just feels like a 12-year-old that keeps saying they're actually turning 13 in 5 months, so they're basically a teenager. I also feel like Jojo either doesn't really know who her audience is except that they aren't kids, or she's still trying to appeal to her kid audience. When I listened to Karma for the first time, I was genuinely shocked that she chose to say, "I never should have effed around," because never before has a singular line completely destroyed what somebody was going for in my eyes. When people censor their curse words like that, that doesn't really scream adult to me. That screams, I don't want to be seen as too adult. And, obviously there's nuance in that conversation, but you get what I mean. A lot of JoJo's success came from her time as a child star and her appeal to tiny, tiny young girls. And I don't mean to say that just because that's what got her on the road means she has to appeal to them forever, but I think she's conscious of how much of her following derives from that. She can post saying, "Oh, I'm switching up my content, guys, just an FYI," but there will always be people who stay for whatever reason, despite how much you've warned against it. To me, this feels like she's trying to hold on to her tween audience, not young enough that their age is a single digit, but young enough that they probably have somewhere between 11 to 19 in their Twitter bio as their age. I think anything has the potential to be anything, really. I'm not trying to say it's impossible for JoJo to do a rebrand, but the truth is, I think she's all talk, no walk. I think she wants to get out of that child star image without actually fully thinking about how she's going to do it. I also think her conflated sense of ego, which, let's be real, was an Abby Lee Miller original she just picked up on, also plays a part in her thinking that if she's just going with the flow, it'll work out. But it won't, because things like this need some hashtag strategy and authenticity, and she offers neither. I will say, as much as I'm criticizing her, I also want to criticize the critics. I've seen so many people look for the dumbest reasons to hate her. There's this misconception going around that JoJo, quote-unquote, stole Karma, and her saying there's no such thing as stealing definitely doesn't help her case, but she really didn't. In the music industry, people buy music all the time. It's really nothing new, and it's even been confirmed by Britt Smith that JoJo didn't steal Karma from her. I think if you want an excuse to hate her, first of all, if you need an excuse to hate somebody, you're hating wrong. And second of all, go for an actually good reason. Something like, "Oh, she allegedly did this to XOMG Pop," or, "Oh, she defends notable child predators." JoJo really is just a perpetrator of the same cycle she's been hurt by her entire life, and to me, that makes her more of a victim than anything else. I'm personally worried about the children she very desperately wants because I think she could potentially put them in the same harm she's been put through, but all we can really hope is that there's laws in place to protect them before they have to go through all that. Anyways, that's all just my opinion thus far. So finals are coming up for me, so I'm actually going to pause on video production. This is going to be my last video until June 8th, where I plan on posting an Avatar: The Last Airbender video. We'll see how that goes. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you could leave a like or dislike, whichever you fancy. Subscribe if you want to wait a month for more videos, and with that, I hope you have a fantastic day.